Hey, don't skip this part. Seriously, before you close your eyes tonight, give me just a few quiet minutes with you. Because I know something about you already, even if nobody else noticed it today. You are exhausted. Not the normal kind of tired that sleep fixes in a few hours. I mean the deep kind of exhaustion that sits silently behind your smile while you continue acting like everything is okay. The kind where your body keeps moving through the day, but your heart has been running on empty for a very long time now. And honestly, you have been carrying too much by yourself lately. Too many thoughts, too many responsibilities, too many moments where you stayed calm for everybody else while your own mind quietly fell apart in the background. So tonight, for the next little while, I do not want you worrying about tomorrow. I do not want you replaying old conversations. And I definitely do not want you carrying the pressure of being strong for everyone else anymore. Just breathe with me slowly for a second. That's all. Because tonight is different. Tonight your soul gets to rest. The room around you feels softer now, while the darkness outside settles gently over the world like a heavy, peaceful blanket. Somewhere beyond your window, rain begins falling in slow, quiet rhythms against the glass, and the sound instantly changes the atmosphere around you. Everything feels slower at night, gentler somehow. During the day, your mind barely gets a chance to breathe because life keeps demanding more from you every hour. Messages, responsibilities, stress, deadlines, expectations, people needing pieces of your energy while you secretly wonder how much more your heart can realistically carry before it finally breaks down completely. But now, none of that noise matters anymore. The world outside has finally gone quiet, and for the first time all day there is nothing chasing you. No pressure sitting on your chest. No countdown forcing you toward the next task. Just this peaceful moment right here. And honestly, your soul desperately needed this. You settle deeper beneath the warmth around you while your breathing slowly begins relaxing on its own. Not forced, not controlled. Natural, easy, safe. Your shoulders loosen little by little, while the tension sitting in your jaw finally softens after being held there all day long, without you even realizing it. And in the middle of this quiet, peaceful night, imagine Jesus sitting beside you now. Calm, silent, present, not standing far away judging you for being tired. Not disappointed that your faith felt weak today. Not frustrated because you struggled emotionally. He already understands every silent battle you fought before arriving at this moment tonight. He saw how overwhelmed your mind became earlier. He saw the emotional pressure hiding behind your smile while you continued handling conversations and responsibilities anyway. And more than anything else right now, he simply wants you to stop carrying everything alone. No speeches, no impossible expectations. Just rest. Deep healing rest beside someone who fully understands the weight inside your chest without needing you to explain it first. The rain continues falling softly outside while the room grows warmer around you, and slowly, almost without noticing, the noise inside your mind begins fading farther and farther away. Your thoughts stop racing quite so fast. Your heartbeat slows. Even your breathing feels lighter now. And resting here inside this peaceful silence, something deep inside your spirit finally begins letting go. The peaceful rhythm, something inside your soul instantly relaxes. The place feels safe, familiar somehow, like peace itself is quietly waiting for you there tonight. So you continue walking toward it slowly while snow crunches softly beneath your footsteps and cold wind moves peacefully through the trees around you. The closer you get to the cabin, the calmer your heart feels. The pressure you carried all day no longer feels attached to you anymore. By the time you finally reach the small wooden porch, your breathing has become completely calm. You gently push open the cabin door, and the moment you step inside, deep warmth wraps around your entire body. A fire crackles softly beside a large stone fireplace, while golden light fills every corner of the room. Thick blankets rest beside a comfortable chair near the fire, and sitting quietly there waiting peacefully for you is Jesus. He looks up at you with the calmest eyes you have ever seen, and somehow that one simple look immediately quiets something inside your chest that has been hurting for a very long time. There is no disappointment in his face tonight, no frustration about how emotionally exhausted you became lately, no pressure for you to explain every anxious thought running through your head. He already understands it all before you say a single word. You slowly walk closer through the warm glow of the firelight while snow continues falling peacefully outside the cabin windows. The room smells faintly of cedar wood and burning pine, while soft orange light flickers gently across the walls, making everything feel safe in a way your heart has not experienced in a very long time. Jesus motions softly toward the chair beside the fireplace, inviting you to sit and finally rest for a while. And honestly, the second you sit down near the warmth of the fire, your entire body feels like it has been carrying invisible tension for months without ever fully relaxing. Your shoulders drop naturally. Your breathing deepens. Even your thoughts feel slower here. For a few quiet moments, neither of you says anything. The silence itself feels comforting instead of awkward, healing instead of empty. Outside the cabin, the dark forest remains still beneath the moonlight, while snow drifts gently through the night sky like tiny falling stars. Inside, the fire crackles softly while Jesus remains beside you in complete peace. And after a while, he gently places his hand over yours. That simple touch melts through every final layer of anxiety sitting inside your chest. The fear about tomorrow suddenly feels quieter. The pressure to keep holding everything together no longer feels crushing. Even the sadness you tried hiding from everybody else begins softening little by little beneath the warmth of his presence. Because the truth is, you have been trying to survive life completely alone for too long now. You kept convincing yourself that you needed to stay strong every second of every day. You kept carrying responsibilities that slowly exhausted your spirit while pretending everything was manageable. You comforted other people while secretly needing comfort yourself. And somewhere along the way, your heart forgot that it was allowed to rest too. But tonight, sitting here beside Jesus in this quiet little cabin hidden deep inside the snowy forest, your soul finally remembers what safety feels like again. Not temporary distraction, not fake peace, real peace. The kind that reaches into the deepest exhausted places inside you and gently whispers that you do not need to fight so hard anymore. The fire beside you continues glowing warmly while your eyes slowly grow heavier beneath the peaceful silence surrounding the room. Outside, cold wind moves softly through the pine trees while moonlight stretches across the untouched snow. But inside this warm little cabin, nothing can reach you here tonight. Not fear, not pressure, not the emotional heaviness you carried into this evening. Because for the first time in a long while, you are no longer alone with your thoughts anymore. The night outside grows deeper and quieter now, while the fire beside you burns lower in soft waves of orange and gold, filling the cabin with the gentlest warmth imaginable. Everything about this moment feels unbelievably calm. The world outside no longer feels demanding. Your thoughts no longer feel sharp and overwhelming. Even the tightness that lived in your chest earlier tonight has almost completely disappeared now, replaced by a peaceful stillness slowly flowing through your entire body. Jesus remains sitting beside you without rushing the silence between you, and somehow his quiet presence feels more comforting than words ever could. Earlier today, your mind was moving so fast. Every responsibility felt urgent. Every conversation drained another piece of your emotional energy. You kept trying to hold everything together while silently carrying stress nobody else fully noticed. And honestly, you became tired in places sleep alone could never fix. But sitting here now beside the warmth of this fire, something inside your spirit finally begins healing. Not because all your problems disappeared overnight, not because life suddenly became perfect, but because your soul is finally resting beside someone who understands your exhaustion completely. Jesus slowly leans back in his chair while firelight flickers softly across his peaceful face, and then quietly, almost like a whisper carried through the warmth of the room, he reminds your heart of something beautiful tonight. You do not have to earn rest. You do not have to prove your worth through constant exhaustion. You do not have to destroy yourself emotionally trying to carry everybody else's burdens while ignoring your own pain. Even on the nights when your faith feels weak, even during the seasons when anxiety becomes overwhelming, even when you feel emotionally lost and exhausted beyond explanation, his love for you never changes. Hearing that truth settle gently into your chest tonight changes something deep inside you. Because if you are honest, part of your exhaustion came from believing you always had to be strong. Strong for your family, strong for work, strong for people who depended on you emotionally. You became so focused on surviving that you forgot your own soul needed kindness too. But Jesus sees every tired hidden part of your heart tonight, and he is not ashamed of your weakness. He is not disappointed that life overwhelmed you sometimes. He understands that human hearts were never designed to carry endless pressure without rest. Outside the windows, snow continues falling softly across the sleeping forest while cold moonlight shines peacefully through the trees. Inside the cabin, the warmth from the fire settles deeper into your tired muscles while your breathing becomes slower and softer with every passing moment. The silence surrounding the room no longer feels empty now. It feels healing, safe, sacred somehow. And as your heavy eyes drift toward the glowing fire beside you, your entire spirit begins realizing something it has needed to hear for a very long time. You were never supposed to carry life alone in the first place. The final hours of the winter night settle softly around the cabin now, while the peaceful fire beside you burns with a quiet, steady glow. Outside, the snowfall has nearly stopped, leaving the forest covered beneath smooth, untouched silver white snow shining softly under the fading moonlight. Everything feels still, almost sacred. Inside the cabin, the warmth surrounding your body feels deeper now, while the thick blanket resting across your shoulders holds you in complete comfort. Your breathing has become so slow and peaceful that every breath almost feels like a gentle wave washing the remaining stress out of your soul little by little. Jesus still sits beside you in the same calm silence he has remained in throughout the entire night, never rushing you, never asking anything from you, simply staying close while your exhausted spirit finally learns how to rest again. Earlier tonight, your mind felt crowded with pressure, fear about tomorrow, emotional exhaustion from carrying too much for too long, silent sadness you never fully explained to anybody. But now, Sitting here in the soft glow of the fire while dawn slowly approaches beyond the snowy forest, those heavy thoughts no longer control your heart anymore. They feel distant now, smaller somehow, like shadows losing their shape in the coming light of morning. Jesus quietly places another piece of wood onto the fire while sparks drift softly upward into the darkness above the fireplace. Then he looks toward you again with the gentlest expression imaginable. And in that peaceful moment, your soul finally understands something beautiful. You were loved even during the moments when you felt emotionally broken. Loved during the anxious nights. Loved during the exhausted mornings. Loved even when you struggled silently and felt too overwhelmed to explain what was happening inside your heart. That realization settles deeply into every tired part of your spirit tonight, bringing a kind of peace words almost cannot fully describe. Outside the windows, the first faint traces of morning begin touching the snowy horizon, while cold wind moves gently through the pine trees beneath the fading stars. Somewhere far away, the world will eventually wake up again. Responsibilities will return. Conversations will continue. Life will keep moving forward. But something inside you has changed tonight. Because now your heart knows where peace lives. It lives here beside Jesus in the quiet stillness where you no longer have to pretend you are strong all the time. It lives here in the deep, comforting truth that you are fully seen, fully understood, and never truly carrying life alone anymore. Your eyes feel heavier now, while the warmth of the fire and the peaceful silence surrounding the cabin slowly pull you deeper toward rest. And as sleep gently wraps around your tired mind one final time tonight, your soul drifts peacefully into the quiet, beautiful certainty that no matter how heavy life becomes again, you will always have a safe place to return to. The peaceful quiet inside the cabin grows even deeper now, while the final darkness of night slowly begins giving way to the earliest hints of dawn beyond the snowy forest. The fire beside you burns low and steady, filling the room with a soft orange glow that flickers gently across the wooden walls and the thick blankets wrapped around your tired body. Everything feels slower here, softer, like time itself has finally stopped rushing you for a little while. Outside the windows, snow rests peacefully across the frozen ground, while pale moonlight still lingers between the tall pine trees, swaying quietly in the cold morning wind. But inside this warm little room, your breathing has become calm in a way it has not felt for a very long time. Earlier tonight, your chest felt tight with pressure, your thoughts felt heavy, and your spirit carried exhaustion so deep you barely had words for it anymore. But now, sitting beside Jesus in the quiet warmth of this cabin, something inside you finally feels lighter. Not because every problem in your life suddenly disappeared overnight, but because your soul no longer feels alone carrying them anymore. And honestly, maybe that is the kind of peace your heart has truly been searching for all along. Not a life completely free of hardship, but the comfort of knowing somebody is walking beside you through it all. Jesus remains seated quietly near the fire while the peaceful silence continues wrapping itself around the room like a blanket. He does not rush you to speak. He does not overwhelm you with answers. He simply stays close enough for your soul to finally relax. And after spending so much of your life feeling emotionally stretched thin, that kind of gentle presence feels almost overwhelming in the best possible way. Slowly, your mind begins drifting through old memories again, not painful in the sharp, exhausting way they once felt. Just quiet reflections passing softly through your thoughts like snow falling outside the windows. You remember the days when anxiety sat so heavily in your chest that even small responsibilities felt impossible to carry. You remember nights when you lay awake replaying every conversation, every fear, every uncertainty about the future while the rest of the world slept peacefully around you. You remember how many times you forced yourself to keep going because you believed everybody else needed you strong all the time. And honestly, you became tired in ways nobody fully noticed. But Jesus noticed. He saw every hidden tear you wiped away before anyone else could ask questions. He saw every silent breakdown you survived behind closed doors. He saw the mornings you woke up emotionally exhausted before the day even started. And somehow, knowing he remained beside you through every one of those moments changes something deep inside your heart tonight. Because now, sitting here beside the warmth of the fire while dawn slowly approaches outside the cabin windows, you finally realize that even in your loneliest seasons, you were never truly abandoned after all. The fire crackles softly nearby while pale traces of early morning light begin touching the snowy forest outside, turning the dark horizon into soft shades of silver and blue. Inside the cabin, everything still feels warm and protected from the cold, quiet world beyond the windows. Your blanket rests heavily across your chest while your tired body sinks deeper into the comfort surrounding you. And honestly, you cannot even remember the last time your spirit felt this calm. Usually your mind fights rest. Usually there is another worry waiting the second silence arrives. Another responsibility replaying itself over and over inside your thoughts. Another pressure sitting heavily in your chest while you try convincing yourself you can keep handling everything alone. But tonight, that endless emotional noise has finally faded into the background. Sitting beside Jesus here in the quiet glow of the fire feels like stepping outside the chaos of life completely. Like your soul finally found a place where it no longer needs to brace itself against the world every second. Jesus slowly looks toward the cabin window while snow continues drifting gently through the trees outside. And for a long, peaceful moment, neither of you says anything at all. The silence itself feels healing. Not empty, not uncomfortable, just deeply calm. And then quietly, in a voice softer than the falling snow outside, he reminds your heart that you were never created to live constantly overwhelmed by fear and pressure. Human beings were never designed to survive life carrying endless anxiety without rest. Yet somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself that slowing down meant weakness. You kept forcing your spirit to keep moving long after exhaustion already settled deep inside your chest. You ignored your own emotional wounds while trying to be dependable for everyone else around you. But tonight your soul is finally learning something different. Rest is not failure. Needing peace does not make you weak. And asking for comfort does not mean you are falling apart. Sometimes the strongest thing a tired heart can do is finally admit it needs help carrying the weight. Hearing those words settle gently into your spirit tonight feels like warmth spreading slowly through frozen hands after standing too long in the cold. Something inside your chest softens completely. The guilt you carried for feeling overwhelmed begins loosening its grip. The pressure to constantly appear strong slowly melts away little by little until your breathing becomes deeper than before. Outside the cabin, the world remains quiet beneath the fading moonlight, while soft wind moves through the pine trees in slow, peaceful waves. But inside this warm little room beside Jesus, your heart finally understands that peace was never something you had to earn through exhaustion. Maybe it was always waiting for you here, patiently, every single time life became too heavy to carry alone. And honestly, after surviving so many stressful days pretending everything was fine, simply being able to rest without fear tonight feels like the greatest gift your soul could possibly receive. The deeper the early morning grows, the more peaceful the cabin begins to feel around you. The fire beside the stone fireplace burns softer now, sending slow waves of warmth through the room, while tiny sparks drift upward into the quiet darkness above. Outside the windows, the snowfall has almost completely stopped, leaving the forest perfectly still beneath the pale fading stars. Everything about this moment feels sacred somehow, like the entire world itself is breathing slower tonight, just so your exhausted soul can finally catch up and rest. Jesus remains beside you in complete calmness, while the gentle glow of the fire reflects softly across his face. There is something so comforting about his presence that words almost fail to explain it. He does not overwhelm your mind with impossible answers. He does not pressure you to immediately fix every broken part of your life. Instead, he simply stays close enough for your heart to finally feel safe again. And honestly, after carrying emotional pressure for so long, safety feels unfamiliar in the most beautiful way. Slowly your thoughts drift toward the future again, but this time the future no longer feels terrifying. Earlier tonight, tomorrow felt like another impossible mountain waiting for you to climb while already exhausted. Another day filled with expectations, stress, conversations, and responsibilities demanding pieces of your energy before you even had time to breathe. But sitting here now beside the warmth of the fire, something about tomorrow feels different, softer somehow. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because your soul no longer believes it has to survive everything alone anymore. Jesus gently reminds your heart that you do not need to carry tomorrow before it even arrives. You do not need to solve every possible future problem tonight while lying awake inside your fears. Most of the exhaustion you carried lately did not come from today alone. It came from trying to mentally survive entire weeks and months all at once. You kept dragging tomorrow's worries into today until your spirit no longer knew how to rest. But tonight, here in this quiet cabin hidden beneath the snowy trees, your heart is finally learning how to stay still again, to breathe again, to trust again. Outside, cold morning wind brushes softly through the pine branches while the first traces of dawn slowly begin touching the snow-covered ground beyond the windows. Inside, the warmth of the cabin settles deeper into your tired body, while sleep continues pulling gently at your heavy eyes. The silence surrounding the room feels thicker now, almost like peace itself has completely filled every empty corner where anxiety used to live. And somewhere deep inside your chest, your spirit finally begins understanding a truth it has desperately needed for a very long time. You were never expected to carry the whole world by yourself. Not your fears, not your responsibilities, not your pain. Because even in the moments when life felt unbearably heavy, Jesus was already standing beside you, carrying the part of the burden your exhausted heart could no longer hold alone. The first faint light of morning slowly begins stretching across the snowy forest now, while soft shades of gold and pale blue touch the horizon beyond the trees. Inside the cabin, the warmth from the dying fire continues wrapping around you like comfort after a long, difficult season finally coming to an end. Your body feels deeply relaxed while your breathing remains slow and steady beneath the heavy blanket resting across your shoulders. The stress you carried into this night feels so far away now that it almost seems unreal compared to the peace filling your chest in this moment. Jesus quietly watches the sunrise beginning beyond the frosted windows, while the cabin remains completely silent except for the soft crackling of the fire nearby. And honestly, this silence no longer scares you anymore. Earlier in life, silence often meant overthinking. It meant replaying painful memories. It meant lying awake alone with your anxiety while the rest of the world slept peacefully around you. But tonight the silence feels different. Tonight the silence feels safe, healing, gentle, like your soul finally found somewhere it no longer has to defend itself against fear every second. Jesus slowly turns toward you again, while warm golden light from the rising sun begins mixing softly with the fading firelight inside the room. And there is such calmness in his eyes that every final trace of tension still hiding inside your chest begins disappearing completely. In this peaceful moment, your heart starts realizing how exhausted you truly became lately. Not just physically tired from busy days, but emotionally worn down from carrying too much pressure for too long without rest. You spent so much time trying to be dependable, trying to stay emotionally available for everyone else, trying to survive responsibilities while secretly feeling overwhelmed yourself. And somewhere in the middle of all that survival, your soul quietly forgot what it felt like to simply exist without fear. But tonight changed something. Sitting here beside Jesus while morning slowly arrives outside the snowy cabin windows, your spirit finally remembers what peace feels like again. Real peace. Not temporary distraction. Not pretending everything is okay. But deep inner calmness that stays steady even while life remains uncertain. Outside, the forest begins waking slowly beneath the soft early light. Birds somewhere in the distance begin singing quietly, while cold wind drifts gently through the trees, carrying the peaceful sound of morning into the snowy landscape. But inside the cabin, everything still feels beautifully still. Jesus remains close beside you while the warmth of his presence settles deeply into every exhausted corner of your heart. And resting here now beneath the final quiet moments of dawn, your soul slowly begins believing something beautiful again. Maybe life was never meant to feel this heavy all the time. Maybe peace was always possible. Maybe you simply forgot that you were allowed to stop carrying everything alone. Morning has fully arrived beyond the forest now, while golden sunlight shines softly across the untouched snow surrounding the cabin. The night that once felt endless has finally faded away, and somehow your heart feels lighter with it too. Inside the room, the fire burns with only a few glowing embers remaining while warmth still lingers gently through the air around you. Your eyes feel heavy with peaceful exhaustion now, the kind that comes after finally releasing emotional weight your spirit was never meant to carry for so long. Jesus remains sitting beside you quietly while sunlight filters through the windows and fills the cabin with soft golden light. Everything feels calm now, complete somehow, like your soul finally made it through a long, painful storm and found safety waiting on the other side. Earlier tonight, your chest felt full of pressure, fear, anxiety, and exhaustion. You carried invisible battles nobody fully understood. You smiled through conversations while secretly falling apart emotionally inside. You kept telling yourself to stay strong because responsibilities kept demanding more from you every single day. But sitting here now in the peaceful warmth of morning beside Jesus, something inside your spirit finally understands a truth that changes everything. You do not have to spend the rest of your life surviving alone anymore. Jesus gently places his hand over yours again while sunlight continues glowing softly across the cabin walls. And in that quiet moment, every final fear about tomorrow slowly loses its power over your heart. Because now you know something you forgot during all those exhausting days and sleepless nights. You are deeply loved even in your weakest moments. Loved when anxiety overwhelms you. Loved when you feel emotionally tired. Loved even during seasons when your faith feels small and your heart feels heavy. That love was never based on how perfectly you held yourself together. It was never dependent on how strong you appeared for other people. It remained steady through every breakdown, every fearful night, every hidden tear nobody else ever saw. Outside, cold morning air moves peacefully through the pine trees while sunlight sparkles across the snow-covered forest like tiny diamonds scattered beneath the sky. The world is waking up slowly now. Life will continue moving forward. Responsibilities will eventually return. But your heart no longer feels terrified of facing tomorrow anymore. Because something inside you has healed here tonight beside the fire in this quiet cabin hidden deep within the snowy forest. Your soul finally remembers where peace lives now. It lives here beside Jesus in the stillness where you are fully seen, fully understood, and never carrying life alone again. And as your eyes slowly close beneath the warmth surrounding you one last time this morning, your exhausted spirit finally drifts into deep, peaceful rest, knowing with complete certainty, no matter how difficult life becomes again someday, you will always have somewhere safe to return to. The peaceful glow of morning continues filling the cabin now, while soft sunlight reflects across the snow outside, like liquid gold spread gently over the frozen forest. Everything feels incredibly calm in this quiet moment. The long, exhausting night that once pressed so heavily against your chest has completely faded away now, leaving behind a deep stillness your heart has not felt in a very long time. Inside the cabin, the final embers of the fire still glow softly beneath the stone fireplace, while waves of leftover warmth drift slowly through the room, wrapping around your tired body beneath the heavy blanket resting across your shoulders. Jesus remains seated beside you in complete peace, while the morning light shines gently across his face, and somehow his calm presence continues making the world feel softer around you. Outside the windows, the forest is beginning to wake slowly beneath the pale winter sunlight. Snow-covered pine branches move gently in the cold wind, while distant birds sing quietly somewhere far away beyond the trees. Life is slowly beginning again outside this peaceful cabin. Yet inside here, everything still feels protected from the chaos waiting beyond the forest. And honestly, maybe that is exactly what your soul needed most. Not escape forever. Not a perfect life without difficulty. Just one sacred moment where your heart could finally breathe without fear tightening around it. Slowly your thoughts begin drifting back toward your normal life again. The responsibilities waiting for you after this peaceful night. The conversations still unfinished. The stress you know will eventually return once the world starts moving again. But something about those worries feels different now. Earlier they felt crushing, immovable, like enormous weights sitting directly on your spirit every second of the day. But now, after resting here beside Jesus through the quiet stillness of the night, those same worries no longer feel powerful enough to break you. Because, somewhere deep inside your heart, a quiet strength has started growing. Not loud strength, Not the exhausting kind built on pretending everything is fine. A gentler kind of strength. The kind that comes from finally realizing you do not need to hold your entire life together by yourself anymore. Jesus slowly looks toward you with calm, steady eyes while sunlight continues filling the room around both of you. And without needing many words at all, your spirit begins understanding something beautiful. Peace is not the absence of hard days. Peace is knowing you are never abandoned inside them. That truth settles softly into your chest, while the cabin remains silent except for the quiet crackling of the final glowing embers nearby. And resting here in the warmth of this beautiful morning, your soul slowly begins trusting that maybe life does not need to feel like survival all the time anymore. Maybe there is another way to live. Slower, softer, more held together by grace than by fear. And honestly, after spending so long emotionally exhausted, simply believing peace is possible again already feels like healing. The morning light grows brighter outside now, while the peaceful winter sky stretches endlessly above the forest, painted in soft shades of gold, pale blue, and silver. Snow sparkles gently beneath the sunlight while cold wind drifts through the tall pine trees in slow, quiet waves. Inside the cabin, the warmth still lingers around you while your body remains completely relaxed beneath the blanket wrapped softly across your chest. Your breathing feels deeper now, natural, easy, and honestly, your mind feels quieter than it has in months. Usually mornings arrive carrying pressure before your eyes even fully open. Thoughts start rushing immediately. Responsibilities begin stacking themselves inside your chest before the day even starts. Anxiety quietly reminds you of everything still unfinished while your spirit barely has time to recover from yesterday before facing another exhausting cycle all over again. But this morning feels completely different. This morning there is no panic sitting in your chest. No invisible pressure forcing your heart to run before it is ready. Sitting here beside Jesus in the peaceful silence of this cabin has changed something deep inside you during the night. The emotional storm that followed you for so long no longer feels in control of your spirit anymore. And for the first time in a very long while, you feel emotionally safe. Jesus slowly stands from his chair and walks toward the large window beside the fireplace, while sunlight pours softly across the wooden floorboards around him. You quietly watch him standing there looking out over the snowy forest while the peaceful silence between you somehow says more than words ever could. Then after a long calm moment, he gently reminds your tired heart of something you desperately needed to hear. You were never created to constantly live in survival mode. Human souls cannot endlessly carry fear, pressure, stress, and emotional exhaustion without eventually becoming overwhelmed. Yet somewhere along the way, you started believing rest had to be earned through suffering. You convinced yourself that slowing down meant weakness, that needing comfort meant failure. So you kept forcing yourself forward through exhaustion while silently breaking apart inside. But Jesus never expected you to destroy yourself trying to prove your worth. He never asked you to carry burdens so heavy that your soul forgot how to breathe peacefully anymore. Hearing that truth settle into your heart this morning feels like sunlight finally reaching a room that stayed dark for far too long. Something inside your chest softens completely. The guilt you carried for feeling tired slowly begins disappearing. The shame you felt whenever anxiety overwhelmed you no longer feels attached to your identity anymore. Outside, snow drifts gently from the pine branches while the peaceful sound of morning fills the frozen forest. But inside this warm little cabin, your spirit finally understands that needing rest never made you weak. It made you human. And honestly, maybe learning how to receive peace instead of constantly fighting for survival is exactly what your soul has needed all along. The room remains quiet while sunlight continues glowing warmly across the walls, and deep inside your chest, hope begins returning slowly like the first light of dawn after an impossibly long night. The peaceful morning continues unfolding softly around the cabin now, while the frozen forest outside glows beneath the gentle winter sun. Everything feels calm in a way your life has not felt for such a long time. The world beyond the trees seems so far away now, almost unreal compared to the quiet warmth filling this little room. Jesus slowly returns to his chair beside the fireplace, while the final embers continue glowing softly nearby, sending faint waves of warmth through the peaceful silence. You pull the blanket slightly closer around your shoulders while your thoughts drift quietly through the past again. But this time the memories no longer hurt the same way they used to. Instead of reliving fear, your heart now sees how much emotional weight you were carrying for so many years without even realizing it. You spent so much of your life trying to stay dependable for everyone around you, trying to keep relationships together, trying to avoid disappointing people, trying to survive stress after stress while convincing yourself you could handle it all alone. But honestly, somewhere inside that endless survival mode, your spirit became exhausted in ways you never fully admitted to yourself. There were nights when you smiled through conversations while secretly feeling emotionally numb inside. There were mornings you woke up already mentally tired before the day even began. There were moments when you desperately needed someone to comfort you, yet you stayed silent because you feared becoming a burden to other people. But Jesus saw every one of those moments, every hidden fear, every silent breakdown, every anxious thought you carried into bed at night while pretending everything was okay during the daytime. And somehow, knowing he stayed beside you through all of it changes the way your heart sees your past now. Because you finally realize you were never weak for struggling. You were simply carrying more than one human heart was ever meant to hold alone. Jesus looks toward you softly while peaceful sunlight continues pouring through the cabin windows. And in that quiet moment, your spirit begins understanding another beautiful truth. Healing does not always happen loudly. Sometimes healing happens slowly in peaceful rooms exactly like this one, where exhausted hearts finally feel safe enough to stop fighting for a little while. Outside the windows, cold wind brushes gently through the pine trees, while snow continues sparkling beneath the golden morning light. Birds sing quietly somewhere in the distance, while the frozen world slowly wakes around the cabin. But inside this room, time still feels beautifully slow, safe, gentle, and for the first time in a very long while, your mind no longer feels trapped inside endless fear about what tomorrow might bring. Because sitting beside Jesus here in the quiet warmth of this winter morning, your soul finally understands that peace was never about having complete control over life. Peace was always about knowing who remains beside you through every uncertain moment ahead. And honestly, that realization changes everything inside your heart. The warmth inside the cabin feels softer now, while sunlight continues moving slowly across the wooden floorboards beneath the quiet glow of morning. Your eyes feel heavy again, not from stress this time, but from the deep emotional release your spirit experienced throughout the night. The exhaustion you carried for so long is finally beginning to leave your body little by little, like tension slowly melting away after being held too tightly for years. Jesus remains beside you in complete stillness, while the peaceful silence around both of you feels more comforting than any conversation ever could. Outside the windows, snow falls lightly once again through the cold morning air, drifting slowly between the pine trees while sunlight reflects off each snowflake like tiny pieces of silver floating gently toward the earth. Everything about this moment feels unbelievably peaceful. The kind of peace your heart searched for through every anxious night and emotionally draining season you survived alone. And honestly, part of you almost forgot this kind of peace even existed anymore. You became so used to emotional survival that calmness itself started feeling unfamiliar. Your nervous system learned how to stay alert all the time. Your mind learned how to prepare for worst-case scenarios before they even happened. Your heart learned how to carry stress quietly while pretending everything was manageable. But sitting here now beside Jesus in this peaceful cabin, your soul is finally unlearning all of that fear. Slowly, gently, breath by breath. Jesus softly reminds your heart that healing is not about becoming someone completely different overnight. It is about finally allowing yourself to stop carrying pain you were never meant to hold forever. It is about learning how to breathe deeply again without guilt, learning how to rest without feeling lazy, learning how to trust that your worth does not disappear simply because you feel tired sometimes. Hearing those truths settle into your spirit this morning feels almost overwhelming in the gentlest possible way. Because if you are honest, you spent so much of your life believing love had to be earned through sacrifice, through constant strength, through endless emotional endurance. But Jesus never asked you to destroy your peace, proving your value to the world. He only ever wanted your tired heart to come rest beside him exactly as it is. Outside, the forest remains quiet beneath the falling snow, while soft wind carries peaceful sounds through the trees around the cabin. Inside, the warmth from the fire still lingers faintly through the room, while your breathing grows slower and deeper beneath the blanket wrapped across your body. And as your eyes drift toward the snowy landscape beyond the windows, something inside your spirit finally begins believing a truth it has needed for such a long time. You deserve peace too. Not someday after everything is fixed. Not only after you finally stop struggling. Right now. In this moment. Exactly as you are. And honestly, that realization alone feels powerful enough to begin healing parts of your soul you thought would stay exhausted forever. The peaceful rhythm of the morning continues quietly around the cabin while the snowfall outside becomes softer and slower, covering the forest in fresh, untouched white beneath the pale golden sunlight. Everything feels deeply still now, calm in a way words almost cannot fully explain. Inside the room, the warmth surrounding your body feels comforting enough to make the rest of the world seem impossibly far away. Jesus remains beside you while the final glow of the fire flickers gently near the fireplace, casting soft shadows across the wooden walls around both of you. Your breathing has become completely steady now, while the tension that once lived inside your chest feels gone for the very first time in what feels like forever. And honestly, your heart finally feels safe enough to rest completely. Slowly, your thoughts begin drifting toward the life waiting beyond this peaceful little cabin hidden in the snowy forest. The normal routines, the difficult days that will still come sometimes, the conversations, responsibilities, and moments when fear may try returning again. But strangely, Thinking about those things no longer overwhelms you the way it once did. Because now your spirit carries something it did not have before this night began. Peace. Not fragile peace dependent on perfect circumstances. Real peace. The kind that stays rooted deep inside your soul, even when life becomes uncertain again. Jesus gently places his hand over yours one more time, while the peaceful silence continues surrounding the room. And in that quiet moment, your heart finally understands something beautiful with complete certainty. You were never abandoned during the hardest parts of your life. Not during the sleepless nights. Not during the anxious mornings. Not during the seasons when emotional exhaustion made it difficult to keep pretending you were okay. He was always beside you, patiently carrying the pieces of your burden you no longer had strength to hold by yourself. Outside, sunlight continues glowing across the snowy forest while cold wind moves peacefully through the tall pine trees beneath the brightening winter sky. Somewhere in the distance, the world continues waking slowly into another day. But inside this cabin, your soul feels deeply renewed now. Like something heavy finally broke loose during the night and left your spirit lighter than before. The fear that once followed you everywhere no longer feels powerful enough to control your life. The pressure to constantly survive alone no longer feels necessary, because now your heart remembers where comfort lives. It lives here in the quiet presence of Jesus, where you are fully known without needing explanations, fully loved without needing perfection, fully safe without needing to keep fighting every battle alone anymore. And as the peaceful warmth of the cabin settles around you one final time, while snow drifts softly outside the windows, your tired spirit slowly drifts deeper into rest, carrying one quiet, beautiful certainty inside your heart now. No matter what tomorrow brings, you will never walk through it alone again. The peaceful silence inside the cabin grows even softer now, while the final stretch of morning settles gently across the snowy forest outside. Sunlight pours through the frosted windows in long golden streams, touching the wooden walls with a warm glow that makes everything feel calm, safe, and beautifully unhurried. The fire beside you has burned low now, leaving behind slow, glowing embers that pulse quietly beneath the stone fireplace, like the final heartbeat of a long, healing night. Wrapped beneath the thick blanket resting across your shoulders, your body feels completely relaxed while your breathing moves in slow, natural rhythms that no longer carry the weight of fear or pressure. And honestly, it has been a very long time since your heart felt this light. For so long you lived as if rest was something you had to earn after surviving enough pain. Every day became another emotional mountain to climb, another performance, another attempt to keep everyone else comfortable while your own spirit quietly carried exhaustion nobody fully saw. You learned how to smile while your mind was overwhelmed. You learned how to answer people while secretly running on empty inside. And little by little, you stopped asking yourself what you actually needed to feel okay. But sitting here now beside Jesus in this peaceful little cabin hidden deep within the winter forest, your soul is finally remembering something important. You were never created to live disconnected from peace. Human hearts cannot endlessly survive anxiety, pressure, emotional burnout, and silent loneliness without eventually becoming tired in ways sleep alone cannot fix. That is why this moment feels so sacred now. Because for the first time in a very long while, you are not trying to outrun your exhaustion anymore. You are finally allowing yourself to rest inside love instead of constantly fighting for survival. Jesus remains quietly beside you while sunlight continues glowing softly across his face, and his presence feels so steady, so safe, that even your thoughts have slowed down into complete stillness. Outside the windows, snow continues drifting peacefully through the pine trees, while distant wind moves softly across the frozen landscape beyond the cabin. The world remains quiet here, gentle, and deep inside your chest. Your spirit finally understands something beautiful that fear tried hiding from you for far too long. You do not need to carry every burden by yourself to deserve love. You do not need to stay strong every second of every day to still be worthy of peace. Jesus never asked you to become emotionally invincible before coming close to him. He only ever asked you to stop running long enough to let him hold the parts of your heart that became too heavy to carry alone. And honestly, maybe that is what healing has always looked like. Not becoming someone else overnight. Just slowly learning that you are finally safe enough to stop surviving for a little while and simply rest. The cabin feels almost dreamlike now beneath the warmth of the late morning light, while soft snow continues falling quietly outside the windows, covering the forest in layers of peaceful white. Everything around you moves slowly here. Nothing rushes. Nothing demands anything from you. And after spending so much of your life emotionally exhausted by pressure, noise, and endless responsibility, this silence feels almost unreal in the gentlest possible way. Jesus remains seated beside you in complete calmness, while the final warmth of the fireplace lingers softly through the room. You can hear the faint sound of wind moving through the pine trees outside, while sunlight sparkles across the snow-covered ground beyond the cabin walls. And as you sit there quietly wrapped beneath the blanket, your thoughts begin drifting through the different seasons of your life again. But this time your memories no longer feel sharp or painful. They feel softer now, easier to hold. You think about all the versions of yourself that fought so hard just to make it through difficult days. The tired version of you that kept showing up even when your spirit felt completely drained. The anxious version of you that carried silent fear while pretending everything was under control. The lonely version of you that desperately needed comfort but stayed quiet because you did not want anyone to see how overwhelmed you truly felt. And honestly, looking back now, your heart no longer feels ashamed of those moments. Instead, you feel compassion for yourself in a way you never allowed before. Because now you finally understand something important. You were doing the best you could while carrying emotional weight far heavier than most people ever realized. Jesus gently looks toward you while peaceful light continues filling the room around both of you. And without speaking loudly at all, your soul begins understanding that he never expected perfection from you in the first place. He never measured your worth by how much pain you could survive without breaking. He never loved you less on the days when anxiety won or exhaustion made you feel weak. His love remained steady through every hidden struggle you carried alone. And somehow hearing that truth settle into your spirit now feels like warmth finally reaching the deepest, coldest parts of your heart. Outside, the snowfall slowly begins easing while sunlight grows brighter across the frozen forest. The world beyond the trees feels alive again. Gentle birdsong drifts faintly through the morning air, while the peaceful winter sky stretches endlessly above the cabin. But inside this room, time still feels beautifully paused, safe enough for your soul to fully breathe again. And honestly, maybe this is what your heart needed all along. Not constant answers, not control over every part of life. Just the reassurance that even when life becomes heavy again, you will never have to walk through it abandoned or alone. That quiet certainty settles deeply into your chest now, while the peaceful silence continues surrounding you like warmth after a long cold season finally comes to an end. The morning continues unfolding slowly around the cabin now, while soft sunlight reflects across the untouched snow outside in shimmering waves of gold and silver. The peaceful stillness of the forest feels endless here, as though the entire world itself decided to slow down long enough for your exhausted soul to finally recover. Inside the room, the warmth resting around your body feels deeper than physical comfort now. It reaches places inside your spirit that stayed tense for far too long. The places where fear quietly lived. The places where overthinking became normal. The places where emotional exhaustion slowly convinced you that life would always feel this heavy. But something has changed inside you during this long, beautiful night beside Jesus. Something gentle, but permanent. You no longer feel trapped inside survival mode anymore. And honestly, that realization alone almost feels emotional enough to bring tears to your eyes. Jesus quietly stands now and walks toward the cabin window once again while the bright winter light surrounds him softly. You watch him looking peacefully across the snowy forest beyond the glass. And for a long moment, neither of you says anything at all because the silence itself already feels healing enough. Then softly, gently, he reminds your tired heart that peace was never meant to be rare in your life. You were never designed to spend every day drowning in stress while calling it normal. You were never meant to carry fear so constantly that your body forgot how to fully relax anymore. Somewhere along the way, life convinced you that struggling silently was strength, that carrying impossible emotional pressure alone somehow made you valuable. But Jesus never asked you to sacrifice your inner peace just to prove your worth to the world. Hearing those words settle into your spirit changes something even deeper inside your heart now. Because if you are honest, you spent years believing rest had to wait until everything was finally fixed, until every problem disappeared, until every responsibility became manageable. But peace was never waiting at the end of perfection. Peace was always found here, in his presence, where your soul no longer has to pretend it can handle life alone. Outside the windows, snow slowly falls from the pine branches while sunlight brightens the frozen earth beneath the quiet winter sky. Everything about the world beyond this cabin feels calm now, gentle, and sitting here wrapped in warmth beside Jesus. Your breathing becomes slower while your heart settles into complete stillness one final time. The anxiety that once chased your thoughts feels so distant now, almost like a storm that finally passed after keeping the skies dark for far too long. And honestly, maybe tomorrow will still carry challenges sometimes. Maybe life will not suddenly become perfect after this moment ends. But now your soul carries something stronger than fear ever was. The quiet certainty that no difficult season ahead will ever have the power to separate you from the peace waiting here beside him. And that truth changes the way your heart sees the future completely. The warmth inside the cabin feels incredibly peaceful now, while the final moments of this quiet winter morning continue settling softly around you. The fire has almost faded completely into glowing orange embers beneath the fireplace. Yet the room still carries the deep, comforting warmth that protected your tired spirit throughout the entire night. Outside the windows, snow-covered pine trees stand peacefully beneath the bright morning sky, while sunlight spreads gently across the frozen forest floor in endless waves of white and gold. Everything looks calm now, beautifully calm, And honestly, your soul feels the same way too. The fear that once tightened around your chest feels gone. The pressure to keep holding everything together alone no longer feels attached to your spirit anymore. Instead, your heart feels lighter now, softer, rested in a way you forgot was even possible. Jesus slowly returns beside you while peaceful silence continues filling the cabin around both of you. And sitting there close to him now, you finally realize this night became far more than just rest. It became restoration, healing, a reminder that your life was never meant to feel like constant emotional survival. For so long you carried burdens that quietly convinced you peace belonged to other people, stronger people, less anxious people, people whose lives looked more put together than yours. But tonight changed that lie completely. Because now you understand Jesus never reserved peace only for people who had perfect lives. He offered peace to tired hearts exactly like yours. Hearts worn down by stress. Hearts exhausted by overthinking. Hearts that secretly carried loneliness while smiling through everyday life. And somehow knowing he stayed beside you through all of it fills your chest with a quiet comfort words almost cannot explain. Outside, the wind moves softly through the trees while distant birds continue singing somewhere beyond the snowy forest. Morning has fully arrived now, yet inside the cabin time still feels wonderfully slow. Safe enough for your spirit to completely let go of the final weight it carried into this night. Jesus gently places his hand over yours once more while warmth from the fading fire glows softly across the room. And deep inside your chest, your heart finally accepts one beautiful truth without fear arguing against it anymore. You are deeply loved exactly as you are. Not the version of you that always stays strong. Not the version that hides exhaustion perfectly. Not the version that carries the world without breaking. Simply you. Tired. Human. Emotionally worn sometimes. Yet still fully loved beyond measure. And honestly, maybe that truth is what your soul searched for through every sleepless night all along. The reassurance that even when life becomes difficult again, you will always have a place where your spirit can safely rest without pretending anymore. And now, sitting here beside Jesus, while the peaceful morning light fills the cabin one final time, your heart finally believes it completely. The peaceful winter morning stretches quietly beyond the cabin now, while sunlight glows brightly across the endless snow-covered forest outside. The world feels calm in a way that almost seems untouched by fear itself. Tall pine trees sway gently beneath the cold blue sky, while soft wind drifts peacefully through their branches, carrying the quiet sound of a new day beginning somewhere far beyond the woods. Inside the cabin, the final embers of the fire glow faintly beneath the fireplace, while warmth still lingers softly through the room around you. Everything feels still now, complete. Your breathing moves slowly beneath the blanket wrapped across your chest while your eyes grow heavier again. Not from exhaustion this time, but from peace finally settling fully into every tired part of your spirit. Jesus remains quietly beside you while morning light shines gently across his face, and his calm presence feels like home now in the deepest sense of the word. A safe place your soul can return to whenever life begins feeling too heavy again. And honestly, that changes everything. Because now you know peace is not something temporary that disappears the moment difficult days return. Peace is knowing who remains beside you through them. The long, exhausting season your heart carried for so long no longer defines you anymore. The anxiety, the emotional burnout, the silent fear of never being enough. None of it holds the same power over your spirit now because this night reminded you of something beautiful your soul desperately needed to remember. You were never meant to carry life alone. Outside, the sunlight continues spreading across the frozen forest while snow sparkles beneath the bright morning sky, like millions of tiny lights shining softly across the earth. But inside this warm little cabin, your heart rests fully now. Safe, loved, understood in ways human words could never fully explain. Jesus gently looks toward you one final time while peaceful silence surrounds both of you. And deep inside your soul, you feel the quiet certainty that no matter where life leads after this moment, His presence will always remain with you. Through every future storm, every anxious night, every difficult season still ahead, you will never walk through them abandoned again. And as the peaceful warmth of the cabin settles around your tired body one last time, while your eyes slowly drift closed beneath the soft glow of morning light, your spirit gently surrenders itself completely into rest, carrying only peace now. Deep, lasting peace that no fear can take away anymore. And before this peaceful journey comes to an end tonight, if this quiet moment beside Jesus brought comfort to your heart, if it helped your spirit finally breathe again after carrying so much for so long, then stay here a little longer with this peaceful space we are building together. Gently subscribe, so whenever life feels heavy again, you always have a calm place waiting for you here. And if someone you love is silently carrying exhaustion too, share this with them tonight, because sometimes one peaceful moment can soften a heart that has been struggling alone for far too long. Now rest deeply, breathe slowly, and let the peace of Jesus stay close to your heart long after this beautiful winter night fades into morning.